All right, so we're here 2219 for an episode of Raw, episode 3 with Stan Nowak. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for asking.
It's been a little while since we last talked to actually get together and video this. We will start at the beginning. You were born in Hamilton in 1960, correct?
Yep, Thursday, February 11th, 8:48 p.m. St. Joseph's Hospital. I was there, I remember.
So grew up in Hamilton.
Yeah. I lived at 96 Park Row South. The house is in our family till 2011, and my mom had to downgrade and that we got rid of the house.
Yeah. Childhood, what kind of trouble did you get into before?
Childhood, you know what? Went to St. John the Baptist School, kindergarten, grade 8. I was in the first kindergarten class at St. John's, 1966.
Yeah.
I was always a nerd. Always picked on, always like the runt of the litter, so to speak. I was a real nature lover, and that's because of my father. My father was always appreciative of nature, of history. I got my mom's personality, my looks, but my father's interest and passion in the arts and sciences came from him. He got me hooked into birds, and when I was in grade 2, we were doing a test, and we had these big picture windows, and I saw a blue jay. And I screamed at the top of my lungs, "Look, there's a blue jay." I was bird brain for the rest of my time there, or big bird when I started to grow. But I was always picked on and never part of the cool kids, so to speak. But on the whole, I had a great childhood. I miss St. John the Baptist.
Grew up there, school there, nature lover. What other things were you into as a kid?
I really got a passion for hockey. I love hockey. It's still a religion to me. All my friends started to play when they were like as young as 3 to 8, and my father wouldn't let me. He'd think I would hurt myself. I was fragile, he thought. And I started playing when I was 13 years old, finally got into the St. John the Baptist hockey team as a goaltender. I was a goaltender, and God, I loved it. I thought it was the safest spot to be. All these other guys face the pucks and the bodies. I had padding to stop the puck. What's everybody afraid of being a goalie for? I loved it. Couldn't get enough of it.
How long did you play hockey for?
Oh, God. Well, I was in grade 8 for St. John. Then I played in DeFasco Minor for 3 years. Then college, university, intramural, and then work intramural. So till about 2001, I guess.
Yep.
I miss it still. I still want to do it.
Do you play hockey now?
No, I don't. I wish I could. I can't afford the equipment anymore.
And you watch? Do you go to all the games locally at the arena?
Love the McCoys. I got about half a dozen sweaters, got caps, got stuff in my scrapbook here about the McCoys. Yes, all 3 Allen Cup games. It's great. I mean, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven, moved here, and who needs the Bulldogs or the Maple Leafs? I can walk 5 minutes away, watch some great hockey at the senior A level.
After public school, you went to Hamilton Collegiate Institute for...
In between there, I went to Delta first. I went to Delta Secondary 74 to 78. There was no grade 13 at that time. There isn't now, but in the public schools, grade 13 was a separate school. So I had to go to the HCI, Hamilton Collegiate Institute, for 78, 79. And I hated grade 13. I dropped out halfway through.
And then you went to college.
I went to Fanshawe College in London for 3 years, got landscape design, and then I went on to university after that, got my Bachelor of Landscape Architecture.
And that was at University of Guelph?
University of Guelph, correct.
So landscape design, Bachelor of Landscape Design, in the landscaping industry for the next 12 years, more or less?
Yeah, something like that. Till around 2000, I worked for government and in private enterprises. I did some stuff on my own. Around 2000, maybe a little after that, I just wasn't getting anybody interested, and I just started to lose interest in it myself. When other interests picked up, like town history and stuff like that.
All right, but tell me a little bit about what kind of landscape designs you did and maybe a couple of the companies you worked for.
Yeah, I worked for a company called Ecologistics Limited in Waterloo, and we did a lot of government projects. Ministry of Housing, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Natural Resources, Ministry of Indigenous Affairs. We did a community up in Wikwemikong, it was called. It was fascinating. So we're talking like late 80s, early 90s here. And then when Bob Ray came into power, he decided to cut some costs, and we lost 75 to 80% of our projects because they were government-based. And consequently, the company went under too. So I started working for some fellows in Georgetown, John H. Day and Associates, more like private landscaping. Department of National Defense, he had a D&D contract, so we designed some bases as well. Fascinating stuff. Cemeteries. It was the first time I ever had my hand on a cemetery design. That was harder than it looks, because you have to design those places for the living as well as for the deceased.
You had aspirations, so it would be nice to work, I believe you said, for a big city doing big design projects.
Oh boy, it's funny how things change. Yeah. When I was in university, I wanted to move either to Montreal or to Vancouver and work for the government. I wanted to work as a public servant, do huge things in city planning. Obviously, it didn't come to fruition. But then my goals had changed too. They were constantly changing until I lost that interest to do that sort of thing.
If I remember correctly, work was a little sparse in the landscape industry. Your wife, Lynn, at the time had lost her nursing job.
This was a huge, monumental move for me. She was the breadwinner. I was working contract basis for a landscape architect in Georgetown, Halton Hills today. She lost her job, and I made a huge decision to, okay, I'll go somewhere where I can get some quick cash. And my sister was working for a steel company in Mississauga, steel processing plant. So she took me in there, thinking I'd be there for just a few years. I was there for 8 years, which by that time when I left, I was unmarketable. I didn't do any catch-up, and I couldn't get anything hide nor hair back in the landscape architecture industry.
Right, and that was Max Steel in Mississauga.
That's correct.
And you did what there?
I ran one of the packaging machines, which in itself was pretty interesting work for the first half hour. But after a 12-hour shift, my brain just clicks off and you just do it by reflex almost. But I never made more money than I ever had working there. But I didn't like the job. It was just, shift work killed me. I couldn't work on the shift work. I just couldn't get used to it. In the meantime there, my first wife left me anyway. Things actually worked out good economically because it was just me I had to support. I didn't have to worry about things progressed when I met my current wife. Max Steel went under after 9/11. The steel, a whole bunch of industry, everything was affected. Max Steel eventually went belly up too and lost a lot of the people. And that's when I started to work at Scotiabank because my wife worked there. And I had a great job there. I was like a processing clerk, but worked, it was straight nights at first. I loved it. It was great just to have one steady time thing. I can go in at night. We basically prepped the table for the day cruise. So we did computer data inputting and physically sorted the checks or any correspondence that came in. We had a tight crew, about 6 people. It was great, and the nights flew by really quick. I'd go catch a few hours sleep and then get up and had the rest of the day to myself.
You were at Scotiabank for...
Till 2016.
That was kind of your first taste of Cactus Fest, was coming with the door one night.
Oh, that was still back in 1999. Not getting involved in it. 1999, after my wife and I moved here, she always told me about this Cactus Festival thing. So I thought, okay, we'll see. And it was just a block away from where I live, so I couldn't miss it. I had a great time, saw these people working hard, and I thought, I want a piece of this. So I signed up in 2001, and it was really, really, really hard work. At one time, there was only like 5 of us running the whole kit and caboodle. I thought, what the hell am I doing here? That was my first taste of writing in a newspaper too. The Dundas Star News wanted somebody to record their impressions during the Cactus Fest, so I did that. And then at the end, they gave me a full page, it's in here too, about what it meant like to be a volunteer. I couldn't crow enough about it. Volunteering in this community has probably been the highlight of my life.
So 2002, you started at Scotiabank.
Yes.
But you had already moved to Dundas back in 1999.
May 28, 1999.
And same house as now. So when you moved to Dundas, it was to that house that you're still in.
Our palatial cottage, yes.
Which if I took the thing from away the window, you could look at your house from here.
That's right, yeah. I see this place from my kitchen.
You, after Scotiabank, I think you said they wanted to move your position to Mississauga, which, who wants to do that?
It was a really complex thing, pissed off a lot of people because it came without notice. They just, and apparently there were some extenuating circumstances. prior to that, but I have no idea what they were, or can't even speculate on that. But in the bottom line, about 130 people that were in our office, I think only about 30, maybe 40 went over. Then after a month there, about half of those said, can't do it. So in the meantime, I got a pretty good severance package for almost a year. And I thought, okay, this is pretty good. Then I got, I guess what you call a semi-retired job now. And I started working at our local Starbucks in 2017. It was perfect. I could walk there, work 20 hours a week in the mornings, because not too many people wanted the mornings. In the afternoon, my day was free. Bringing in income, a great benefits package. All I had to do was work 20 hours a week and I got full coverage. What more could I want? And I got free coffee.
And you're, yeah, and you're at Starbucks pretty much every weekday morning from open until around noontime. So
not even that. 5:30 to usually around 10, maybe 10:30. Once in a blue moon till 11.
But if you frequent Starbucks, you're a regular fixture there.
Yeah.
In the morning.
You'll see me in the morning, and it's great. I get to know a lot of people, what's happening in town. It's like being a bartender. You know, people come to you and talk to you about what's going on, especially important for somebody like me who really wants to know what's going on in Dundas. Being at the point of sale at Starbucks is like nirvana. God, I get all this great stuff that's happening, and it's especially important now because we have no local newspaper anymore and no radio station, so getting word of mouth and following up whichever way I can. It's great. It keeps me in the know. People like me. I get to engage. It's a perfect job.
Hi, Rosemary.
Hi, Stan.
What are we getting for you?
Can I have a chocolate pastry with cream?
What's cream? Like a Rosemary?
It's like it's on the cut.
They did. Sorry.
You live in Dundas.
Yes.
You work part-time in Dundas. And then there's the rest of your time, which has opened you up into many different things. So we will talk about that next. Stan, your wife. Tell me about how you met your wife and how she influenced or guided you in a few decisions that led you to Dundas, to jobs, that kind of thing.
Hugest influence in my life ever, Sally Evelyn Watson. I knew her when she was married to her first husband, and I think I was in college then. And then we lost touch, and I was looking for a mutual friend that I lost touch with, and I found her name. I knew she lived in the west end of Hamilton. I just called her out of the blue. Hadn't spoken to her in like 10 years. I just called her out of the blue and made a date to meet. The rest is history, as they say. She asked me if I was afraid of big dogs. I said, no. I was terrified of big dogs because when I was a little kid, I was mauled really bad by a big dog, and I thought, no. I thought, okay, well, we'll see. I went to her door and was accosted by this big 110-pound yellow lab named Basil. But he made my heart melt, and I became a dog person on the spot. That dog became mine. That's why we named our cottage Basil Cottage. It was after him.
You called her out of the blue.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I assume you had to look her name up in the phone book?
I did. In the phone book, when there were phone books. And yeah, we started talking. We went out. She introduced me to opera. I liked classical music, but was never a big fan. Just I appreciated it. But we went to, she had season tickets to the opera. Would you like to go to the opera? Oh, I'd love to try it out. Saw Rigoletto at Hamilton Place and was smitten by it right away, and I became an instant opera lover. We went for quite a while until Opera Hamilton ceased to be. If there was such thing as reincarnation, I'd love to come back as an operatic tenor and sing Nessun Dorma. But she also, when our relationship developed further along and we decided to get married, she says, only one condition. You gotta move to Dundas, she says. She was involved with Dundas Little Theatre almost 20 years by that point, and she just always wanted to live in Dundas. And I thought, no, okay, so I hear it's a nice little town and stuff. So we drove around endlessly looking for houses. We had a great real estate agent who just recently passed away, unfortunately. We found finally, at the end of a long day, the little cottage we're in now. And it was so nondescript, we thought, Maureen Farmer, our real estate agent, Maureen, we gotta go in there. God, it doesn't look like much. And she says, yes, you gotta go in there. They're waiting for us. So went in, saw this beautiful living room. The fireplace was on, everything was cozy. I thought, holy cow, this is magnificent. We were sold already, we knew. But we took a look around the house. I thought, oh my God, this is getting better and better. So we sealed the deal, and on May 28 of 1999, we moved in. And that'll be on my tombstone too, May 28, 1999. Chapter 2 of my life starting in Dundas.
Now, where did each of you live before moving here?
Sally lived in Westdale pretty well all her life. I grew up in the east end of Hamilton. I went to school in London and Guelph. I also lived in Milton and Burlington. When my first wife and I divorced, I lived in Burlington with my sister because they were having some economic problems too, so we sort of helped each other along. And then when I met Sally, we moved to Dundas.
And we know you're a fan of Dundas. You're still here.
This is my soul town. I was meant to be here. 1,000% convinced of that.
So this is probably a good segue. I wanted to ask you, you are known as Mr. Dundas or Stan About Town. What does Dundas mean to you?
Oh, wow.
It's a big question, I know.
Got the rest of the year? When I first moved here, I was just impressed by the location of it. It felt like we were in a little bowl. I like to say now that the drop in altitude was a softening of the attitude. Everything was just so nicer here. People were friendlier here. I remember when we first moved here, I stepped out and wanted to explore the neighborhood. Found out we live across the street from the museum. I thought, holy moly, this is perfect. You know, because I was a history nut, so to speak. But on a grander scale, I was never more into local history till I came here. Found out more about the house, and it just mushroomed, like dropping a pond in a with concentric circles. My interest just bloomed. I had to know more and more about this town. But it was the people. I remember going out in my Jimmy Buffett shirt one time, just walking around town. And the first person I saw said, hey, you got a nice shirt there. Never knew this guy at all. Never experienced anything like that in any other communities I lived in. And we just chatted for a while. Never saw the person again. I thought, oh, this is nice. And chatted more, just made friends along the way. It was day one in Dundas. It was great. I thought, this is a special place. It felt like I had been here before somehow. And I can't explain that. But when we got to our home and I was looking at the different vistas, I thought, this all looks somehow familiar. And I thought, I'm lucky. This is a special town. And I knew I always wanted to be part of something bigger than me. And I always wanted to do something for public good and all that stuff. It was easy here because I didn't so much jump in to be involved in volunteering as they just welcomed me in. And I'm convinced like 9 out of 10 people living in this town volunteer for something or another, and the 10th one just hasn't lived here long enough.
It is a town very rich in history. We can point out beside you on the wall is the 1851 map of Dundas.
What happened later was I started getting more interested in the history of it, talked more with Carolyn Westaby, who was a curator of the museum then, and everything I've done, like historically wise and walking tour wise, I owe it all to her. There was a book project happening. Margaret Houghton of the Hamilton Public Library, the late and great Margaret Houghton. She was the library archivist with the main branch. She had a book project going. This was soon after amalgamation. The idea was to write about certain deceased people within the town boundaries that are buried within the town boundaries. I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. But Carolyn pointed me out, and she said, you should do some of this because you're really interested. You're new at this. You're excited about it. You should contribute. I don't know if I could do this, Carolyn. I've never written. I've always fantasized about it, never done it. You can do this, no problem. I know you can. So did a few articles for that book, led to a whole bunch of other books. I think I've contributed to 9 altogether. I do have to touch on the walking tours, which the Dundas Museum and the Carnegie Gallery were teaming together have an arts weekend. And part of the deal was that they hired a double-decker bus. I'd been in town maybe 4 or 5 years then. I was getting a working knowledge of this town and its history. Carolyn Westaby, Stan, would you like to work on a bus tour Only 4 hours. I thought, Carolyn, I don't know that much about the town. Oh, you'll be with Claire Crozier. He's Mr. Dundas. This guy, if you want to know anything about Dundas, this guy knows it. And if he doesn't know it, nobody does. He was former chair of the board here at the museum. But he was going to do part of it, and I was going to do part of it. I thought, okay, I can do this. I can do up some cheat sheets and do it. Then he couldn't do it at the last minute. I thought, oh, holy moly, how am I going to do this? I was terrified. So just use your cheat sheets. You're quite an outgoing fellow. You'll be fine, she says. And I thought, oh, I'm going to die. Did it. 4 hours went by in a flash, and I told her, Carolyn, you know what? If you want me to do this ever again, as long as I live and breathe, I'll do it. She took me up on that. And she's not curator anymore, obviously. And unfortunately, she just passed away late last year, too. But then Dundas had its Made in Dundas event every last Saturday in May. And they do the horse and wagon tour. It's a highlight of my year.
So how long did the bus tours?
Just once.
Just the one.
It was just the one time. And then walking tours developed from that. I thought this will be easier because on a bus, you're on it, sitting on a bus. Oh, there's the Horn of Plenty, and there it goes, and you couldn't concentrate on one. Walking was beautiful. I can take a group of 10, 20 people. It got me out of my shell. It got me to engage a lot with people. The more I learned, the more confident I became. The more I did it, the more confident I became. And people are appreciative of it. People want to know. It's probably the most gratifying thing I've ever done here. Take people around, showing them the sights, teaching a little about where they live. I finished one of those days walking 3 feet off the ground.
So the Dundas Museum and Archives every May does Made in Dundas, and they usually have the horse wagon.
That's right.
And you sit and do the tours for the day doing that.
Yeah, it's about 4 hours.
But there isn't a walking tour per se anymore, is there? Not counting the Ghost Walk. We'll come to that.
There isn't. It's just when people want to do something for a charity or something like that, I'll do it. I'm doing one next month. For the Rotary Club, Tour de Dundas. It's a fundraiser for St. Joseph's Villa and I think for the Civitan Club. I can't remember now at all. For Dundas Community Services too. Part of the thing, a lot of people are, there'll be biking, there'll be a taste of Dundas, so a lot of the local businesses will be offering goodies. And part of it, I'll be doing tours of the cemetery, which is right next door to the driving park, and the downtown Dundas.
Yeah, it's the third Tour de Dundas, Taste of Dundas.
That's right.
This coming September. There'll be local vendors.
It's not just for bikers. It's a big community family event for lots of interest. So we'll be
and there'll be food vendors. I think last year it was Red Door Cucina, which was pizza with Dave. Burnt Tongue was there. Lager Shed was there.
Yes.
Chris was there from Domestique for a little bit. I think this year they'll have more. So
there'll be a bit more because last year we ran out of food. We didn't expect all the people that did come out. It was massive. The turnout was totally unexpected. We didn't expect that many people. Yeah, George Eastwood, he's been the mover and shaker behind this. And just a recent past president of the Rotary Club. This guy is organized and in the zone when it comes to this. He's great at this.
Yeah, I think last year there was 300 cyclists. There's already 100 this year.
Yeah.
So
we'll have more.
Should be a pretty good turnout. Lots of things happening that day. Who are the 5 people from Dundas you would like to meet?
Wowzers. Okay. A teacher named Bessie Riddler. I remember when we were doing this book project, there was no women involved yet. At that time, the museum had a replica classroom of this little lady named Bessie Riddler, Elizabeth Riddler. I thought, well, she must be pretty special if she's got her own exhibit in the museum. So I inquired about her, and I said, I want to do Bessie Riddler. Let me do Bessie Riddler. Didn't have a clue about her. I had no idea about her, except from what I'd seen at the museum. So I explored, found her. The Osler Memorial House is where her house/schoolhouse was. And I decided, I got to find out where this lady's buried. And so I took my dog, my yellow lab Simon back then, went out to see her where she's buried, and it was exactly 100 years ago to the day after she had passed away. I thought, oh, I got to write about this for sure. This was meant to be. Around that same time, something started with the Dundas Star News called A Window to the Past. That was one of my earlier stories, I think, was that one. Teachers are like high priestesses, or high priests in my opinion. And this lady was a prime example because she taught all the movers and shakers that went on to influence the town for decades. A century after that, after she had passed away in 1901 or 1902, I think. She's one of my heroes. She was apparently a diminutive little lady, like only about 5 feet tall, but I would give anything to meet her. James Coleman was a guy who was the richest, who was our first town millionaire. Bought a lot of property along the Desjardins Canal, was a merchant. He built where the Thirsty Cactus is now in I think it was 1834. He sold his wares there. Smart businessman. If you look at the Thirsty Cactus, it's kind of a funny shape. He did that on purpose because it was eye-catching. People would look at the building and say, oh, this is a really neat building. I wonder what's inside. Draw people in. Smart guy.
It's now obviously one of the landmarks of town.
That's right, yeah. Richard Hatt. What a visionary. Early 1800s, he comes moving in here, sees a possibility of something that's happening. The town had already become, started to develop, but he's had a vision, says this could be good. And he bought all the property along Spencer Creek, along Hatt Street, which is named for the aforementioned Richard, and became a huge industrialist. It was his idea to develop the Desjardins Canal at first. But when he passed away quite suddenly, when he was only 50, Pierre Desjardins took it over, and the rest is history, as they say. But he was a man of vision, well before his time, and he's one I'd like to sit down at dinner with and pick his brain too. Helen Beswick?
Yes.
I'm lucky. 2 of my heroes were Helen Beswick, and I think Joanna Chapman was another one. And these women, powerful, passionate, huge advocates for the town. Helen was a town councillor, she was an artist, and she contributed regularly to the Dundas Star News. I got one article in here where she mentions me. She did not mince words. She liked to tell it like it is, but when she could recall stuff around her town and her life, boy, you were in for a really good session of enlightenment and entertainment as well. She just really gave a damn about this town. I miss her. I was lucky, you know, a lot of people's heroes in the past, like the aforementioned 3 gentlemen before, but I was lucky to meet Helen and Joanna Chapman too. Joanna Chapman has done so much for this town, established the co-op that's on Main Street, the Urquhart Butterfly Garden, which is in the canal, in the Desjardins Park. She was the big mover and shaker about that. She's so modest though, she didn't want it named after her. Name it after the scientist, man and wife team that worked on butterfly studies. It was the first one of its kind in the country. So yeah, it's an historic.
It's a beautiful spot too.
And it's beautiful. I take my dog there all the time.
Yeah, I love that little spot. Yeah. And then there was one last person on your list.
Oh, Greitmeyer started off. He made his fortune with buses. I mean, he started the Toronto-Hamilton bus line out of his house, just down the street here. He built them all in his backyard. Established a railway network, a bus network. But it wasn't just that. He was really involved in community affairs on a broader scale. He was head of the Arena Building Committee, hence why in 2000 the city named it after him. And this guy was just indefatigable. Nothing could keep this guy down. And I'm lucky enough that I know his one of his direct ancestors, Peter Curtis. So I do have a slight connection to him. He's told me a lot about him. I thought, nice. I wish I could be like that guy. I wish I could be like all of them. These people, you know what? Outside of this local area, nobody's ever heard of them. But here, if it weren't for the contributions of these people, there's no way we'd have a community like we do now.
Well, I think you're...
And there's countless others.
You are pretty close to following in their footsteps if you're not already.
Boy, flattery will get you everywhere.
Dundas Star News. Talk about...
Dundas Star News.
Because you've done quite a number of art. Like I tried looking up online.
Oh, they're all here.
I could find some. I found some in like the Spectator that listed you.
That was really a fascinating experience because when I was researching them, I was learning myself for the first time too, being relatively new. The idea was that 4 or 5 people were going to tribute rotating columns to the Dundas Star News called Window to the Past. You know, talk about an aspect of Dundas history. I think Kerry McNamara did something similar before I moved to town in the mid to late 90s. He's got a book out now too, a couple books. And I thought, okay, I'll do this. So we started to rotate. My very first one was on, well, what's this town seal meal I'm wearing it here? The Dundas Town Seal. That was the very first one I wrote. And I was just fascinated by it, put something together and sent it in. I thought, Hail Mary full of grace, we'll see if they like it. And to see it for the first time in a newspaper was such a high for me because I'm always fascinated. I've always fantasized about doing stuff like that. And there was my name in black and white. Although not a news article, but still. It just rolled on from there. We rotated. The other 3 people dropped out, and personally it was just me doing it until the Dundas Star News thought, okay, we beat this horse, flogged this horse long enough, and we stopped. Brought it up again a couple of years ago when Dundas celebrates 175th anniversary. And some of these came out again. I added a few more, like why does the clock in the post office have 4 slashes instead of the traditional IV? So that was one that I put on Facebook. It made it to the Dundas 175 publication. And I found out that I love to write. I absolutely relished finding something I didn't know, doing some research on it, and writing some kind of palatable story about it. And not just a listing of data and facts and stuff, but making it interesting, making it somehow history or a story. What I like to do is take, let's say, the person. If I write on a person, I'll take one special event that defined this person, start with that. Really emphasize this one special event, and then go into his life afterwards. Yeah, obviously now no Dundas Star News, but I put something on Facebook all the time. It's not quite the same though.
Yeah, how many articles do you think you wrote for specifically Dundas Star News?
Holy moly.
Rough guess.
20, 21, maybe 22.
Which is for the Spectator. And how many articles in print do you think are out there?
I think the same ones. They just took whatever was in the Dundas Star News and they put them under the Spec banner.
All right, Stan, let's talk about current things you're involved in, because you've done a lot in the past in the community, for the community kind of thing, but you're still involved in many, many things in the community. Rattle off all the things you're involved in, and then we'll come back and touch on.
Roots Youth Center, the Rotary Club of Dundas, the Architectural Conservancy of Ontario, the Hamilton branch, and my walking tours, I think.
Dundas Little Theatre.
Oh, Dundas Little Theatre. My wife would kill me if I didn't mention the DLT.
Let's start with the ACO.
The ACO. There's a lady I know named Shannon Kyles. She's a huge proponent of any architectural history. She taught architecture at Mohawk. And she lives in Greensville, and they were doing a protest on preserving an historic building in Ancaster. And I went out to that rally, and Shannon asked me, you should join the ACO. So this was 2 years ago maybe. Okay, I will. What do you guys do? She rattled it off. We fight to preserve the heritage of the local area, so of Hamilton. I thought, well, that's not my alley, I'll do it. And joined, we did Doors Open. Doors Open is a huge undertaking, trying to get all the people who participate. Sometimes there's just walking tours. I did a couple of walking tours for Doors Open, one of the best days of my life. And that's used to promote preservation, conservation of our local heritage buildings. The idea being Doors Open, you're allowed to go in and see what it's all about. It's a phenomenal learning opportunity for anybody who wants to know the history of our local area. Doug Ford introduced legislation that by the end of this year, any building that wasn't designated couldn't be designated for 5 years till 2030. In the meantime, they'd be vulnerable to any developers. That would mean the former Valley City Manufacturing. That would mean our old post office here, my favorite historic building in town. Just to mention too, a bunch of us got together. Actually, this is province-wide. They organized a Heritage Day at Queen's Park. So we arranged interviews with various MPPs, went down to Queen's Park, and being a political junkie too, this was like right up my alley. And I'd never seen the building Queen's Park. So this ticked off a lot of boxes on a whole bunch of levels. Talking with some of the MPPs, I couldn't believe how receptive they were. There was one Tory MPP who's part of the party who was pushing this, who was the most receptive of all. He offered suggestions on contacting the local MPP and reintroducing this legislation, but including this, and this. It's Sandy Shaw here. Something happened and we got a 3-year extension. So from 2025, or 2 years, sorry, from the end of 2025 to 2027. It's not, we would like more time, but it's 24 months we didn't have to work to designate these buildings in town, including the 2 mentioned, and one on 2 Hat Street, right near the town hall. It's the oldest building in Dundas.
The oldest one, yeah.
and it's not designated, which absolutely leaves me gobsmacked. There's a big push to get that designated. The city promises that they'll all be designated before the end of this calendar year.
Now, just to touch on, for those that don't know, if an historic building that's on that map behind you that was built in 1851 is not designated historic, it means that the owner can do with it as he pleases. He can tear it down.
And the city can't stop.
He can change the facade. He can do whatever he wants.
That's right. He can do whatever he wants. You know, obviously he's got to go through a demolition permit, but the city can't say no on grounds of historical importance.
Because it's not
designated. It's not designated.
So, for example, the owner of the old post office / clock tower could, at any time, decide to tear it down.
Yep. And there'd be a big outcry.
Oh yeah, the whole town would be mad.
Legally, he can do whatever he wants right now.
Yes, but other buildings that are designated, if he wanted to tear it down,
he can't do it.
Can't do it.
Carnegie is one.
Yeah, so a lot more red tape.
Can't touch it. The school back here at Dundas Central, the old part is designated. William Osler went to that school, so you can't touch it. The older part, which is around the back along Melville, they can destroy that. It was a contemporary addition, but the old part, can't touch it.
I think the building we're in right now.
Oh, the doctor's office, the surgery, yes, it is.
It's been moved, of course, but...
Yep. I think it's really important, protecting our architectural history. These are just evidence of what happened before, who lived here, that there were people living in this town. They did something special here. And this is just evidence of what they did. It can teach us. Every building has 1,000 stories. And it's just learning about it, maybe learning some lessons that can be applicable today, and usually they are. And it just adds character to this town. I mean, if there was all raised and had cookie cutter buildings, they'd have no depth.
Yeah, a lot of it,
piece of paper.
For me, being photographer, videographer, it's the character, the uniqueness that sets it apart. And the clock tower is one of those. Most of the buildings in town make Dundas unique to what it is visually.
One of the best things I ever did was when the post office was being decommissioned back in 2009, I think it was. So just short of 100 years of being there, I got invited for a tour there. It was heavenly. Went up and down that tower. The clock tower, all the parts were from 1913. The pendulum, one of the pendulums swings on a piece of steel that's thinner than your hair for over 100 years now. Incredible. The company who built the bell and the clock tower, they were made in England, still in existence. I think they're under different names and partnerships or whatever, but still there. So these parts were made in England and shipped over. The bell is really loud. I was there when it struck 1. Thank God it was only 1, or I wouldn't be able to hear right now.
Talk to me a little bit about the Dundas Rotary Club.
This was a Starbucks connection.
Should I say Rotary Clubs?
Yeah, there's 2 in Dundas. There's the Rotary Club of Dundas, which is mine, the noon hour meeting. Then there's the Dundas Sunrise Rotary Club, which they meet in the mornings. Jennifer McPherson, a lady who I knew through Giant's Rib, was in Starbucks. We were talking with the Rotary Club. Would you like to join? Yeah, I'd love to. What's involved? But I'm not a business owner. But, oh, it's okay. You can come. You're a community activist. Came. Learned so much about not just what's happening in town here, but what's happening globally. Our club is involved with building libraries in Africa, washroom facilities, and all the effort that goes into, and it astounds me because people are doing it just to help other people. Nobody gets paid for this, again. In town here, we're working on developing, and this has been a dream of mine since I lived here, a heritage trail on the south side of Spencer Creek. Right now we're going from Ogilvie to Market right now, but my dream is to have, and it's all accessible. We're trying to make it all accessible. There's a little bit of a problem at Market, but the project's going along quite nicely. Now, patience is a virtue, because I eventually want to take it from Market over to Dundas District as well.
Right, yep.
So, and it's beautiful to walk there. I mean, I'm lucky I can walk there, but if anybody's challenged by getting around either in a wheelchair or even with crutches or a cane, they can't do it. They can't do it. So to make it as accessible as possible to all, and they can experience not just the heritage, but the nature that's just right next to your downtown.
Yeah, it's a beautiful trail beside
And
the creek.
it's replenishing inside, spiritually, mental health, It all has various connections, not just celebrating our heritage, but celebrating our individual well-being as well. So we're working on that as well. I got tabbed to be president for 25, 26. I think they were scraping the barrel. So I'm president-elect now for this term from 24 to 25, and I'll take over candidate 25.
So what are some of the events that the Rotary Club does to raise funds, awareness in town?
Some big ones, I just finished it, was the pancake breakfast. And it was the best candidate I ever had.
Say that is
so actually
first.
Right in there, serving up the pancakes, sausages, talking to people. I didn't want this day to end. Lots of people came in, they get to learn a bit more about Rotary. The funds raised go to our club, which we disperse, of course, to other charities locally and around the world. The Lobster Fest, the Lobster and Rib Fest, happens every fall. We have our Tour de Dundas coming up and the Taste of Dundas coming up. Those are just three huge undertakings. That requires a lot of manpower. And sometimes we have to really, really push ourselves to get that manpower to do it. But it's worth every effort, because what the awareness that we raise just for our club, to all the charities involved, and a lot of people may say, "Oh, I didn't know they do this, this, and this." And
yeah, I bought 2 tickets for the Lobster Fest, and the parking lot was quite the mastery of organized chaos to drive through.
I don't know how
I pulled up and it's like, this is a little crazy. But everyone seemed to know exactly what they were doing, and each person would direct me to the next person. And within minutes, I had 2 lobster in my car and was leaving, flabbergasted as to how that actually happened. Because it looked like chaos, but I was in and out, and it was actually well organized, and everyone knew what they were doing, and it was pretty amazing, actually.
And just from a personal standpoint, it gives me an opportunity to get involved in the community, make lots of friends. I mean, oh my God, you can't have enough friends, and Rotary Club is a great opportunity to contribute and to make friends, and just to improve your social life too, as well as participate in community life.
Hello, my name is Karen Schuett, and I'm the owner and licensed funeral director at Circle of Life Cremation and Burial Center in beautiful Dundas, Ontario. I have been a member of the Rotary Club of Dundas for 10 years, and I met Stan there about 5 years ago. When Stan gave his classification talk to our membership, we were all very impressed with his passion for Dundas. He talked about Dundas at great length, how he loves living here. It is his dream home, and he loves his little cottage, as he calls it, that he lives in. Stan is going to be our president in 2025 to 2026, so he is currently our president-elect, and I know he will do great things as president. Stan is well known in Dundas for his historical knowledge, his walking tours of the cemeteries and different areas of town. And if you have any questions at all about anything, Stan is a great person to ask. I'm very pleased that I've gotten to know Stan, and I just love him.
Hi, my name is Rose Pye, and I have been involved with Dundas Little Theatre for over 25 years. I have produced, acted, worked backstage, and also been on the board for over 25 years. I've known Stan for probably over 20 years too, and I know him best because he's volunteered a lot here doing things like if we have to tear down the set, bring in heavy material, clean up. He's been involved, and since I've been involved so long, I've known him to do that as well. I've also known him because I produced a show called Inherit the Wind, and he had a small part as a juror. He also had another part in Cakewalk, which is just a walk-on part. I think my favorite role that Stan has fulfilled here at the theater is front of house. He ushers, and I mean, his generosity of spirit and his friendliness, I don't think anybody dislikes Stan. He's just a good guy. He welcomes people with his booming voice, and and I think everybody feels welcomed. He'll tell them a little bit of history of Dundas Little Theatre, and it's wonderful to know him. And it's an honor to be speaking about him today.
Let's talk about Dundas Little Theatre.
This is magic for me. My wife was involved with the Dundas Little Theatre since 1980 when they built the building. She was part of the fundraiser back then. She lived in Westhill, but she had strong connection to Dundas. She used to work the Scotiabank at the University Plaza. My wife wanted to go see a play after being out of it for so many years. When she got divorced, her husband was still involved, so she stayed away. So we went to see a play. I've been seeing them ever since. I haven't missed a single play in almost 20 years. Season ticket holders, they asked for volunteers. We need somebody strong to help with the set changes and all that stuff. I thought, okay. I thought there'd be a hierarchy. There's the actors, the directors, and us little minions at the back. And it was all like one big happy family. I've never felt so embraced and so involved and just an equal on every sense of the word. Actors are just one part of a whole team. You know, everybody works to put on something that'll engage the audience that comes in. It was such a satisfaction just to help in any little way I could. And theater people are the most eclectic people in the world. They're the most interesting on a whole. I can't imagine anybody more interesting than theater people. They're well educated. They're very liberal on the whole, and I've learned a lot. They range from teachers to students to university profs. We have some university profs, and all they want to do is act and entertain. Nobody gets paid. The work that they put in just is astounding. And a lot of the productions that have been put on by the DLT, and this is truly an unbiased opinion, I would put up against anything New York or Toronto has to offer. I am not kidding. They are that good. And extra special because nobody's paid for it. Nobody benefits financially from it.
And they put on 3 to 4 plays a year?
3 plays a year. Now there's a project underfoot to have a children's production, which I think will happen either in 25 or maybe even 26. Don't know yet at this point. It's just in progress. But that's about it. It's being part of a huge family, and it's one of the most fun things I've ever done. One of the hardest sometimes, but definitely one of the most fun.
Correct me if I'm wrong. You also had the opportunity to perform on stage as an extra?
But this was Inherit the Wind. Inherit the Wind has a great story. It's my favorite courtroom drama of all time. The movie stars Spencer Tracy, who in my opinion can never do any wrong. He's my favorite actor, him and Bogey. And decided to do the play. I was in the play reading committee that picked this play. It was huge. I didn't think Dundas Theatre could pull it off, so I voted against it. I was the only one, shockingly enough, but I was overruled and decided to put it on. They needed an extra for jurors. So I was picked as an extra for the jurors. So I went to all the practices, and the director, Tammy Camermans, I couldn't believe how she did it. She had all these people on stage, different needs, different egos and stuff, and she made it all gel beautifully. It was magic. At the end of the first run, I'll never forget, going up there, I had one line. Jury's coming back, nailed it first shot. I went up and to do the bow. The applause was intoxicating. I can't imagine what the stars of the show feel like when they get up there and they take a bow, knowing in their gut that they've done something that the audience absolutely loved. The high must be indescribable. And I just felt it just being a little extra. But I was an equal because I was part of something bigger. It was fantabulous. One of the best experiences I ever had.
When does the next season at Dundas Little Theatre start up? Is it fall?
The next season starts in fall. We have one in the wintertime, so early in 2025, and one in the spring. Can I remember what the plays are at the moment? I can't. One is a Shakespeare.
But the plays should be on the website with the dates, and you should be able to buy tickets.
Correct. Yeah. And we'll have play and season information.
And they're normally like Friday night, Saturday, Sunday with a matinee?
They go Friday, Saturday, Sunday with a matinee. Matinees are hugely popular. They're always sold out real quick. People like to come in the afternoon, especially the seniors, since we have a huge senior component in this town. So seniors like to come out and still come and leave the play and still daylight out. And I always help from anything from setting something up to being just coat check guy. It's great just to be involved in any little way. It really, really is. It's contagious.
Nice.
You just want to be involved.
when you're done the matinee and then it starts to get dark, you have another hobby that you like to do, the ghost walks. Talk to me a little bit how they started, what they are.
COVID-19, you know. For a bit in the fall, society came up for air in between pandemic runs or whatever. The museum called me up, Anna Patterson, and she says, are you interested in doing some ghost walks? And I thought, I don't know, I don't have that much. Oh, that's okay, we can dig some more up. So I started double timing on research. I did some more stuff on it too, because I love that sort of thing. Had a nice collection, but I didn't feel like we had enough. And she says, oh, you'll do fine. So the first one was on a Thursday night, and I like to conduct tours by talking to people, not at them, being very conversational. What do you think of this? Does this scare you? And the most important one was, if you've got any more to share with me, please do. I'd like to learn some more. And so did the Thursday night, the Friday night, a Saturday afternoon, and a Saturday night. And by the end of that time, I had about 15 extra more that I could incorporate in my repertoire. The Saturday night was the best day of my 2020. It was Halloween night, full moon, clear. Couldn't ask for a better night. And so I went around, it was huge. I did the Dundas District Lofts, which is a hotbed of paranormal activity. Ended up at the town hall, went up to the cemetery. And when we were in the cemetery, this big rabbit ran across the path, scared the hell out of everybody that was in front. I thought, I gotta find that bunny and buy him the biggest carrot I can find, because that was perfect. So told as best as I could. Some I really embellished a lot, but it's fun to embellish, and you can see the people's reaction. It was the best night of my 2020. And I said, I'll do them whenever you want. I'm in. The last year was done, like you said, Discover Dundas with Tess and Co leading the way.
And as part of Discover Dundas, I was able to partake in one of your ghost walks last year, and you're going to do them again this year. We don't know the start date yet. But
not yet. I enjoy it. I think everybody enjoys it. I think people like it because I really like it too, and I like to share that enthusiasm with them. It's a fun thing to do. Get some exercise, get to see part of the town you don't normally see, and learn a little bit about it.
How many ghost stories do you think you have?
Wow, I'll say I have about 50 to pick from. And I can't say them all, of course, because it would take just too much time. And every walk that I do, I alternate between them, you know, depending on the time, the vibe of the audience that's participating, and you can sense it that they're getting a little tired, so you hurry it up a bit. But it's nice to have a wide variety. I'm trying to put them in a book.
And it's a big enough town with a long enough history. You can pretty much go to any part of town and talk about something slightly spooky, at least, if not worse, for the ghost stories.
And this is the funny thing. Yes, this is the good thing, is that I've only had the tip of the iceberg. The majority I haven't even begun to research yet. There's so many, I'm sure, or I know that there is, and I want to touch on something and really expand on it. I want to get an encyclopedia of paranormal activity of Dundas in here. It's just a great fun way to spend the Halloween season to do. And the last time we did it on Halloween night. So, you know, I made fun of the kids walking around and told some kind of offhanded story about each of the kids. They laughed, the people laughed, and it just adds to the whole experience.
And wasn't last Halloween quite warm, oddly enough?
It was. I wore this leather coat and a black shirt, and I was dying by the end. I could take it off and just
yeah, I think it was like a heavy t-shirt kind of night. It was the year before was freezing, but the last year was actually quite nice.
Well, last year, actually, yes, you're right. The 2020 was the one that, it was fairly warm, but I was dying. But last year, yeah, I think I just wore a t-shirt. And I couldn't believe how comfortable it was. So it was easier to carry on and stay out a little bit later, because people were a lot more comfortable weather-wise.
What does the future hold for Stan? You got your hands are in so many pies.
For me,
is there a pie your hand's not in that you'd like to get a taste of?
Oh, I can't think of anything at the moment. I'm pretty saturated right now. Not that I would turn down any opportunity, but right now I can't think of anything. All this stuff that I do right now.
Let me pose a cruel question. You have to give it all up except for one thing, what one thing would you keep?
God, that is hard as anything. I think it would be the ghost walks.
Yeah.
With all due respect to DLT being a close second, and ACO being a close third, etc. and so forth.
Is there one ghost story that is your favorite that you try and include on every single wall?
Oh, wow. Russell, just because of the abundance of stories with Russell. I mean, I found where he's buried, where he's supposed to stay. Funny enough, since the school became condos, no sighting of him anymore. The idea was that he would be there when the kids were there. He wanted to entertain the kids, take care of the kids. But they're not there anymore, so maybe Russell's finally retired. Russell is one. In that same area there, the train crash that happened Christmas 1934. It's almost 90 years. It'll be 90 years this year. People have noticed they see lights of different color flashing by. Dug some research, and the interpretation seems to be that those are the spirits trying to get back on the train again to go home, which they'll never do, of course. The Dundas district, the basement was quite haunted. Some eerie happenings because that was used as a morgue at one time. That area, the west end of Dundas, is really haunted. Anything with cemeteries. The cemetery itself isn't haunted, but the personalities that reside there have interesting stories to tell and have had some interesting afterlife stories as well. There was an old cemetery that I like to mention too. The first Roman Catholic cemetery was at the end of Market Street and went up the escarpment. People will still see lights going back there on the south side where the escarpment was, and they're all different shapes. People have seen triangles, diamonds, trapezoids, squares, circles, just dancing around that area where the cemetery was, because they took out most of the bodies, not all of the bodies. They took out the ones they could find. So the idea is that a lot of the body remains are still out there somewhere, buried under all those trees that are up on the hill of the old Hamilton Cemetery. So anything with cemeteries always fascinates me. I love them. I love doing cemetery tours because I don't need cheat sheets because they're already written on the stone. So I try to mention those a lot. The post office one is another one. I just found this one recently about a timekeeper in the post office who said, I think it was either 64 to 66, somewhere in there. He says, this clock's going to need to be fixed. Hasn't been fixing in the 51 years it's been running since. And why do you say that? I just feel it's going to break down. It's going to break down. And so the clock stops at, I think it's 20 to 4. It stopped, and the fellow passed away. And he had an apartment there because the postmaster and the clock tower attendant, they had a major apartment on the second floor. It was bigger than my house. It was huge. And he passed away that same night, apparently. And when they were winding the clock up, all you could hear was, I told you it was broken. That's it. As clear as right beside you. The guy looks beside you. Who said that? The only time you can hear this guy is when they have to wind the clock. Said, I told you it was broken. But now it's winding perpetually now. They've got it that you don't have to wind it manually anymore. They didn't disturb the historical elements that are there. Thank God. But apparently you don't hear him anymore because unless the thing breaks down or there's a power failure, then you may hear him again. And it's funny enough, there's a picture on the Shoppers Drug Mart, and the clock is stopped at the exact same time. Or that's where it reads the exact same time as the clock stopped in the 1960s.
Well, Stan, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. It's nice to brag about my favorite community.
So we've got a bunch of your stories, and we hope to hear you continue telling us stories of Dundas and its past in the near future.
So when I stop telling stories, I'll be living in Grove Cemetery by then. So.
And we'll be sure to visit you
you.
on the future Ghost Walks. Stan Nowak, thanks very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.